Rumors are spreading that the Grand Prince has continued to pass away. The regent? He still has not found the consciousness to recover. The ending of episode 10, where Grand Prince Yoo Ji Won was trapped inside the flames, truly made everyone's palms sweat. Then, in the preview for episode 11, the sight of Hui-ju running into the fire and saving Won looked as though it would become one of the greatest scenes of the drama. In truth, the two of them already knew how they felt about each other, but through this fire incident, they proved clearly that they had moved beyond simply liking each other. They had become a real team, willing to risk their lives for one another. The moment Hui-ju pulled Won out of the flames and saved him became a massive weakness for Lord Buwon, who had guarded his secrets so thoroughly until now. Lord Buwon may have plotted this in order to disguise Won's death as an accident, but in the end, it became the decisive mistake that exposed his own tale. Won would never let this fire incident pass quietly. He began investigating it in painstaking detail. He examined where the fire had started, who had brought the flammable materials, and every single clue that could tighten the noose around Lord Buwon's neck. As the investigation began, terrifying truths started bursting out one after another. While looking into this fire, it was revealed that the method was far too similar to the past accidents that had killed Won's parents. Evidence began emerging one piece at a time, showing that Lord Buwon's dark hand had been behind both his mother's traffic accident and his father's sudden death. By trying to kill Won, Lord Buwon had ended up exposing the murders he had hidden for more than 10 years. The story that would unfold in episode 11 would become a satisfying turn of events, where the trap Lord Buwon created would instead become his own grave. Won was ready to take the hand of Hui-ju, the woman who had saved him, and reveal every evil deed Lord Buwon had committed in the past. Now, Won had only one thing left to do: take the late king's royal decree, ascend the throne, and destroy Lord Buwon, who had killed his parents and even placed his wife in danger, in the name of the law. This fire was the signal flare announcing the beginning of Won's revenge, and for Lord Buwon, it was the beginning of an endless downfall. Lord Buwon's breath would slowly be choked off by the powerful blade of this fire investigation. This investigation would go beyond simply finding the cause of the fire. It would become a massive storm that dug up all the manipulated accidents Lord Buwon had buried using his power. In the process, Won seemed to discover one more chilling fact. The fire on the day the late king, his older brother, died also appeared to have been a crime deliberately committed by Lord Buwon. Until now, Lord Buwon had subtly pretended to suspect his own daughter, Yoo Ji Won, as the culprit behind that fire. He seemed to have pressured her as though asking whether she had done it to seize the throne. In truth, he had been the one who set the fire, then planted guilt in his daughter, so she would obey him unconditionally. As Lord Buwon's inhumanity was revealed, how he had ruined his own daughter's life just to hide his crimes, Won's rage would likely reach its peak. Lord Buwon would be portrayed not as a father who loved his child, but as a devil-like figure who had even devoured his daughter's soul for the sake of his own ambition. Won would weave all these truths together and pressure Lord Buwon fiercely. He would likely reveal, in front of the ministers, decisive clues proving that the traffic accident and heart attack from 10 years ago, along with the late king's fire incident, had all used the same methods and involved the same people. Lord Buwon would struggle until the end, calling it slander without evidence, but Won would already have won over the subordinates who had worked under Lord Buwon and knew his secrets, even securing their confessions. As the very people Lord Buwon trusted most began standing on Won's side and testifying to the truth, Lord Buwon's power would collapse meaninglessly, like a castle made of sand. Through this entire process, Won would also remove the unjust shackles placed on Hui-ju. He would officially reveal the humiliation she had been forced to endure because of Lord Buwon's threats, and he would declare before the whole world that she was fully qualified to become the queen of this nation. Lord Buwon had tried to make his own daughter queen, but instead, all his crimes were exposed, and his entire household would face a miserable downfall. Won's revenge had reached its final stage, and Lord Buwon would meet the most wretched end, sinking into the swamp of lies and crimes he had created himself. In the final 3 chapters, all the conspiracies that had piled up layer upon layer would be cleared away, and Iwan and Hui-ju would achieve a deeply moving true victory. The fortress of power that Lord Buwon had guarded with such arrogance would crumble like dust in an instant before the blade of truth Iwan drew. Iwan would not stop at simply dragging him down from power. He would make Lord Buwon pay, in full and in the name of the law, for every ugly crime he had committed. Lord Buwon, who had spent his life ruling over others and even using his own child as a tool, would eventually be condemned by the very people he had looked down on most. He would meet a miserable end, remembered in history as a sinner. On the ruins of tragedy, Iwan would finally honor the late king's will and formally ascend the throne. His coronation would not merely announce the birth of a new king. It would become a symbolic ceremony that comforted the souls of those who had died unjustly and restored discipline to the fallen royal house. Even in the solemn moment when the crown was placed on his head, Iwan would not forget Hui-ju, who had protected him with her life. In the highest and most dazzling place, he would take Hui-ju's hand and proudly announce to the whole world that she no longer had to hide or live while watching others' reactions. It would truly be an exhilarating moment. Hui-ju's reversal of fate would likely bring tearful emotion to viewers. She had been born into the private life of a chaebol family and had always lived with her shoulders hunched. She had suffered the painful memory of pushing away the person she loved because of Yoon Irang's schemes. All of that would finally be compensated. For Hui-ju, who had walked through that entire thorny path, the position of queen would not simply be a rise in status. It would be portrayed as the very life she had rightfully reclaimed. Standing side by side with Iwan and receiving the cheers of the people, Hui-ju would shine brilliantly, as though she had recovered the confidence she had lost 10 years ago. In the end, the drama would prove its message through the two people's coronation. Evil is always judged, and sincere love triumphs. King Iwan, who uncovered the unjust deaths of his parents, and Hui-ju, who rose to the position of true mother of the nation at the end of that revenge, their ending would feel more perfect than that of any other work. Iwan would rebuild the country that Lord Buwon had ruined into a just place, while Hui-ju would stand beside him as a dependable partner, becoming a wise queen who warmly cared for the people. The story of a man who became king for the woman he loved, and the growth of a woman who rose from a hopeless situation to the position of mother of the nation, would remain in viewers' memories for a long time. The final scene, where the two of them walk hand in hand through the palace garden and share a peaceful conversation, would feel like a dazzling morning finally arriving after a long night. The cruel chain of misunderstandings and ill-fated ties would be completely broken. From that point on, only a radiant future filled with happiness would unfold before the two of them. It would be such a satisfying ending. After watching the final coronation scene, viewers would probably feel both choked with emotion and deeply relieved for a long time. The line where Ihwan kisses the back of Hui-ju's hand and softly murmurs, "Now, no one can touch you. You are my queen," would become the greatest line running through the entire drama. It would be a scene more than enough to compensate for the pain of those 10 long years, during which they missed each other, yet had no choice but to push one another away. Especially after Lord Buwon was dragged away, the sight of Yoon Irang staring emptily at the vacant seat of power would also leave viewers with many thoughts. Because of her father's ambition, she had abandoned both love and friendship and turned into a monster, but the moment she realized that nothing remained for her would be portrayed in an unbearably tragic way. The calm, forgiving gaze Hui-ju gives Yoon Irang at the end would become a symbolic direction, showing that Hui-ju was no longer a small girl trapped by the wounds of the past. She had become a great vessel capable of embracing a nation. The reign of Ihwan and Hui-ju that would unfold from then on would be warmer and more just than any dynasty. Ihwan would remove the old, corrupt officials Lord Buwon had planted one by one, and create a new world where capable people were properly valued. Hui-ju, too, would not become a queen intoxicated only by the splendor inside the palace. As queen, She would go directly into the lives of the people and listen to their voices, showing herself as a true hands-on queen. When the ending credits rise as the two of them walk side by side behind Junjeongjin Hall at Gyeongbokgung Palace under the sunset, smiling as they say, "We really came such a long way," wouldn't every viewer rise to their feet and applaud? The revenge was refreshing, and the love was passionate. It would be remembered as a drama with a truly perfect beginning, development, turn, and conclusion. The happy future that Ihwan and Hui-ju will create together may continue on in the viewer's imagination, but one thing is certain. As long as they are together, there will never again be cold tears. It would be a brilliant and perfect finale, almost like something seen in a dream.